Another decade is nearly over, and the tens have been amazing for Premier League football. Do we call it the tens? Or the tennies? Who knows? But anyway, here is every current Premier League club's best player of the decade. Arsenal, Alexis Sanchez. While he may have left the club in not so popular fashion, there's no denying the impact Alexis Sanchez had at Arsenal. The Chilean carried the club at times, buzzing around the pitch and doing whatever he had to do to get a result for the Gunners. He cost £32 million from Barcelona in 2013, spending 3.5 years at the Emirates. He scored 80 goals in 166 competitive games, nearly a goal every other game, which is astounding considering he wasn't an out-and-out striker. An elite player who has sadly fell by the wayside since leaving Arsenal. Gunners fans won't care at all, he was great for them. Aston Villa, Jack Grealish. This was a difficult one as it's been a rough decade for Villa, eventually succumbing to relegation before spending 3 years in the Championship. We saw players like Christian Benteke and Fabian Delph shine in patches, but were giving top spot to Jack Grealish. The youngster has been in and around the first team for the most of the decade, but in the past 4 or 5 years has really stepped up, with the Championship making him into the player he is today. He's now Villa's talisman and performing excellently in the Premier League whilst donning the captain's armband. Bournemouth, Nathan Ake. A crucial decade in Bournemouth's existence, who made it to the promised land of the Premier League for the first time ever. And with that came better players, which brings us to Nathan Ake. The Dutch defender arrived on loan in 2016 from Chelsea, then became a permanent cherry for £20 million a year later. He's a top defender and been linked with even bigger clubs due to his performances. The likes of Simon Francis and Steve Cook have been loyal servants over the decade, but neither have as much class as Ake. Brighton, Lewis Dunk. Bar a brief loan spell at Bristol City, Lewis Dunk has been Mr. Brighton this decade, making his first Seagulls appearance in April 2010. Since then he's gone from League One all the way to the Premier League, Brighton captain and an England player, which is testament to both his ability and his loyalty. A top player who's been unrivaled at Brighton during the past 10 years. Burnley, Tom Heaton. He left this summer, but in years prior, Tom Heaton has been Burnley's most consistent player in both the Championship and the Premier League. The goalkeeper made 200 appearances for the club during a 6-year stint at Turf Moor, forcing his way into the England setup in the process. Some Burnley players might have had better individual seasons such as Michael Keane or Danny Ings, but no one has been as consistently good as Heaton. Chelsea, Eden Hazard. Not only was he Chelsea's best player of the decade, he could stake a very strong claim to being the Premier League's best player of the decade. Eden Hazard is pretty much unstoppable when he's at his best, going past players, playing at his own pace, and doing so with a smile on his face. Despite numerous managers, his role at Chelsea has never changed, he was always the main man. Hazard left this summer for Real Madrid, and fortunately Chelsea aren't missing him, but the Premier League is certainly a worse place without him. The Belgian is simply one of the best players in the world. Crystal Palace, Wilfried Zaha. The biggest fish in the pond, Wilfried Zaha has had an interesting decade, one that started with a move to Manchester United. That ended badly, but Zaha is now back at Selhurst Park and proven to be one of the best players outside the top 6. He's consistently been Palace's go-to guy, a talisman who's been the difference between staying up and going down. He's a modern day Crystal Palace legend. Everton, Romelu Lukaku. I very nearly picked Seamus Coleman here for his longevity, but Romelu Lukaku was and is just too good to ignore. The Belgian striker made the shock move from Chelsea to Everton in 2014 for £28 million after scoring 15 goals on loan the season prior. The big man was a goal machine at Goodison Park, and one they still haven't replaced despite him joining Manchester United in 2017. But his best ever Premier League season came in an Everton shirt, scoring 25 times in the 2016-17 campaign. Leicester City, Jamie Vardy. From Riyad Mahrez to N'Golo Kante to Wes Morgan, there are a few candidates here for Leicester City, but it's just got to be Jamie Vardy. He started the decade in non-league, and just look what he's done in the past 10 years. Promotion, survival, Premier League winner, the record for consecutive games scored in, and he's not slowing down despite entering his 30s. He's been amazing this season for Brendan Rodgers, almost as if he's being spurred on by his wife's shithouse antics with Colleen Rooney. Liverpool, Luis Suarez. We had a lot of people to pick from, but Luis Suarez gets the nod ahead of Steven Gerrard and Virgil van Dijk. When you look back at Luis Suarez's Liverpool record, it's incredible, especially if you consider the games he missed for suspension because of his various different discrepancies. Suarez nearly took Liverpool to the Premier League title under Rodgers, falling at the final hurdle, but that wasn't a great team. It was Suarez's heroics that took them so far, which is a testament to his ability. He's a horrible bloke, but a great footballer. Manchester City, David Silva. There were a lot of choices when it came to City, as this decade has been the best in the club's history. but we've decided to go with David Silva, who could easily go down as the best foreign player ever to embark on the Premier League. He arrived in 2010 from Valencia, and since then he's dazzled in England. A pass master, a genius with the ball at his feet and also a leader, David Silva has been unrivalled at times at City, getting better and better as the years go by. This is Silva's last season in the Premier League and we should cherish every minute. Manchester United, David De Gea. It's been an interesting decade for Manchester United. While they did win 2 Premier League titles, they also lost the best manager they've ever had and slid down the league at an alarming rate. But even through the bad years, David De Gea was still world class and often won them a lot of points, which is why he gets the honour of being Man United's best player of the decade ahead of Wayne Rooney. It was close though, so Man United fans let us know if you disagree. Newcastle United, Fabrizio Colaccini. A player whose Newcastle career ended badly with the Argentinian desperate to return to his homeland, Colaccini was amazing at the start of the decade, the best defender Newcastle had in years. Although that wasn't difficult considering how bad they'd been at the back. Colla would read the game expertly and was confident on the ball, but was ruthless when he needed to be. He once made the Premier League team of the season and also broke a bone in his back when doing an overhead kick clearance in the corner flag, which sums him up really. Norwich City, Grant Holt. Yes, we're going right back to the start of the decade and going with big man Grant Holt. In 3 years he played in 3 divisions, helping their careers from League 1 all the way to the Premier League, firing double figures in each division. It was the Premier League where he was most impressive, scoring 15 goals in his first ever season in the top flight. And now he's a wrestler, how odd. Sheffield United, Harry Maguire. Good old Slabhead started his career at Sheffield United and spent 3 years of his decade at the heart of the Blades' defence in League 1. While they've had other players play at a higher level and have a bigger impact in the club's fortune, such as Billy Sharp, you just got to look at what Harry Maguire did at such a young age and what he's gone on to achieve since. None of that would have been possible had it not been for his formative years at Bramall Lane. Southampton, Adam Lallana. The Saints have had some sensational players during this decade, from League 1 to the Premier League, and while Virgil van Dijk would be the easy option here, let's just look at what Adam Lallana actually did in a Southampton shirt compared to Van Dijk. The defenders really stepped up since joining Liverpool, but Lallana dragged the Saints all the way to the top flight, a key figure in the foundations of the club and where they are today. Van Dijk is an overall better player, but Lallana was much better for Southampton. Tottenham, Harry Kane. Sorry Gareth Bale, you've been pipped to the post by Harry Kane here. While Bale's final few years at Tottenham were sensational, Kane has been equally if not more impressive over a longer period of time. While Bale left in 2013, Kane is in his 7th season as a Spurs first team player, and the amount of goals he scored in that time is unrivalled. He scored 41 times in all competitions in 2017-18, that's Ronaldo and Messi levels of greatness. An amazing goal scorer who is Tottenham's greatest player this decade. Watford, Troy Deeney. A no-brainer, Troy Deeney is Mr. Watford. He's been a Hornet for pretty much the full decade, joining in the summer of 2010 from Walsall. He's had his issues, but his efforts on the pitch in a Watford shirt make him their player of the decade. He's been a goal machine in the Championship, a leader taking them to the Premier League, then a talisman in the top flight, showing he can score against some of the best teams in the world. Not afraid to speak his mind, Deeney has a real job in his hands to get Watford out of their current mess. West Ham, Dimitri Payet. He was here, then he was gone. West Ham got 18 months out of Dimitri Payet, but what an 18 months it was. The French midfielder was a class above at Upton Park than the London Stadium, scoring some truly out of this world goals, such as the physics-defying free kick against Crystal Palace and the outstanding solo straight against Middlesbrough. His time there ended in disgrace, but what a talent he was for West Ham, that's undisputed. And finally Wolves, Ruben Neves. I've said it before and I'll say it again, how is Ruben Neves a Wolves player? Well, I know it's because of George Mendes, but that's besides the point. Joining in 2017, the Portuguese midfielder has lived up to his potential at Molineux, in the Championship, the Premier League and the Europa League. We've seen breathtaking passes and world-class strikes, and there's no doubt there's more to come from Neves, who is surely destined for even greater things going into the next decade. So that's every Premier League club's best player of the past decade from 2010 all the way to 2019. Let us know your best players in the comments below, or if you think we've got any of these wrong, which you probably do. So make sure to let your voices be heard in the comments below. If you've got any videos you want us to do in the coming weeks and months, put them in the comments, and please don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. If we could hit another milestone by Christmas, that would be amazing. We're on 322,384 at the time of recording, so if we get to 400,000, even 350,000, I'm not greedy, anything would be amazing. Thanks for watching and we will catch you next time. Christ, so nearly at 10 minutes. We might as well just drag it out a little bit longer. You get that extra ad money, don't you?